Hello, magnificent human beings. My name is Landon Slaughter, and here we do yoga. We talk about life and we focus on personal growth. Yes, that is exactly what we're doing today because it is learning about chaturangas. Oh no, chaturangas. I know this pose is the devil. It's the absolute worst, right? Actually, it's not that bad. There's just a lot of misproper, improper, not so good alignment in this posture. So we are going to do modified chaturangas. This is all about building strength so that you can later do full chaturangas. So I'm going to break down the pose and a little bit about the full chaturanga, and then we're going to focus actually a lot on the modified version because I think that's where a lot of us in our practice should be. If you watch my classes, you know that I modify in my chaturangas all the time, and it's because it is a very difficult pose to do. It takes a ton of arm strength. So please roll out your mat, and I will roll the intro screen. Thank all of you for being here. I would like to very first demonstrate what a proper chaturanga looks like. The block is useful in this. In a proper chaturanga, you lower outward, and this part of your arm here, your forearm, stays relatively vertical, and you don't really come too far forward or too far back, right? So, placing this here. Eye gaze is forward, you're high on those toes, roll your shoulders back just a little bit, and you lower outward. See? I can't even really talk while I'm doing it because all my power is in there holding myself up. So notice how my elbows did not go beyond my side body here, right? This part of my arm, the humerus, stays in line with my side body. So again, high on those toes, and you lower outward, and this has a lot to do with triceps and pecs. So if you're at home and you're trying this and you put this right next to your forearm here and the block keeps falling, then you know you probably need to be shifting your weight a little bit more forward. Most people make the deadly mistake of dipping way too far down in their chaturangas like this, which is terrible for your shoulders because it puts all the weight in your shoulders. So you don't want that. And the fact is that, we can spend a lot of time talking about chaturangas, but I think many folks are not at that full level of being able to come super far forward, hold, and push back up, or from your hold, you can release and come up into up dog, what we typically do in our vinyasa flow, right? So let's stay away from doing full chaturangas because honestly, it's kind of like if I was instructing a class on chin stand or grasshopper or something. We want to be there one day, yes, but it is extremely important to focus on these strength building techniques that can lead up to you doing a full chaturanga. So let's look at modifying our chaturangas. Same principle applies with your arms here, but we're just going to lower down to our knees and we're in a modified plank, right? So modified plank, do your checks. You don't want to be sagging and you don't want your butt way up, right? Take a look at your fingertips, spread wide, and a lot of us make the mistake of bringing our hands too far out. So I'm going to exaggerate, but this is pretty close to where you want your hands. Fingertips spread super wide and thumbs almost touching. So take a look and then maybe separate those thumbs by about 2 inches. And so as you lower down, those arms are going to hug in super tight at your side body. There's really not any room in between my arms and my chest at all. As a matter of fact, it's kind of rubbing just a little bit. If you do Ashtanga a lot and are familiar with the primary series, you know there's lots and lots of Chaturangas, and eventually you kind of build up sort of a toughness, kind of callus in this area from those arms rubbing in at your sides. And it's not that bad. It's just your skin rubbing against your skin. Like, your arms will get over it. It's okay. So hands really wide, fingertips spread really wide, arms pretty close together. Do not let your elbows come out as you come down. Again, you can't shift forward and bend your elbows out. This doesn't happen. You can only shift forward by keeping your elbows in and coming forward. So again, same principles apply. Keeping this forearm nice and straight. Don't bend it as you come back. It's kind of like you're hinging just from your elbow joint here, right? So this stays exactly where it is, and then you hinge out and come back. And it's weird, right? Because this is one of those things we never do in our day-to-day lives, because this is a totally different sort of, yoga push-up thing. But push-up is a bad word because it invites, other things into our brain that shouldn't be there, because it's not really a push-up. In your modified version, holding nice and strong and lower outward. And notice how my arm here, the humerus, right where my bicep tricep is, it doesn't go past my side body. And what's interesting is that in a modified version, you're only going to come to here, which is not a 90-degree angle, and that's perfectly fine. So don't worry about it. It's kind of maybe more of a 45 or something, but we want to build up that arm strength. So just paying attention to where that arm comes, right about there. Comes back up. You're not going very far, but you're really going to feel this in your pecs and in your arms. You shouldn't be feeling it too much in your shoulders, because you want to actually roll and keep those shoulders back just a little bit. And there's a tendency to be in your modified chaturanga and do this, right? Where you're hunching. So get rid of that hunch in that upper back. Roll your shoulders back. Eye gaze forward and come on down and come back up. Okay, so that's kind of part of it, right? Now, here's some sensations to pay attention to as you're doing this. The biggest one is how your knees feel on the mat. You want it to feel that that knee flesh is kind of pulling on the mat, because if you're lowering outward, you're kind of almost taking those knees with you. And depending on how you get into this pose and how you're flowing through, your practice, there's going to be times where your knees do drag on the mat just a little bit. And this is a good thing, because I'd kind of rather folks err on the side of leaning a little too far forward than not leaning, far forward enough. So to exaggerate just a little bit, you're in your modified plank. We're getting rid of that rounding in our back by rolling those shoulders back. And then eye gaze forward. And as you lower out, see, I'm exaggerating, obviously, right, by pulling my knees and pulling them forward, but that's the sensation that you want. Think, if you've ever done bench press before, where you're kind of holding the bar right across here, right on your sternum, those arms are in those 90 degrees and you're pushing out, because all of your power comes from this point. It doesn't come from up here. It's through your pecs, right? So it's a similar thing in your chaturanga. It's just strange because we're doing an upside down bench press almost. So arms in at your side, shoulders roll back, and lowering outward. Oh, knees drag just a little. Push back up. Very good. And there's a lot of controversy in the yoga world about, oh, you lower down and then do you push back up, or do you lower down and then release and come in to up dog? So I don't care which side of this argument you're on, and let me demonstrate. 2 ways to do chaturanga. 1, like this. And then 2, like this. You know, you lower out, you pause, and then you release and come through into up dog. So either way is fine, but you know, whichever one you want to do is cool. But for this modified way, I really suggest kind of getting that halfway, push back up, and then lower all the way down, raise up into up dog. And the reason is because we're in a modified version, so it's safer to kind of do that pulse, if you will. Lower halfway, pause, push back up, and you're getting a little bit more of a workout, right? And then lower all the way down, and then come up into your up dog. So that is Chaturanga, and that is really, I think, an excellent way to modify in your practice to help build that arm strength. And please, please, please don't worry about what everyone else is doing. We really get into this kind of ego game where we're like, oh, I got to be doing full chaturangas and not modifying or anything, you know, and then what do? We end up messing up our shoulders or something like that. Ask any yoga teacher and they will tell you that shoulders have been an issue for them or they've had problems. Honestly, most teachers out there will maybe not so willingly admit, but we've had issues with things either being torn or messed up or slightly dislocated. And it comes, I think, from ego. Our ego gets in the way and we think, oh, I can do this or I can do that. And then all of a sudden, you know, something shifts and it's not good. So leave your ego out of your practice. Just focus on those gentle motions there to build some of that arm strength. And then eventually you'll be able to do that full chaturanga. Thank all of you so much for being here. I greatly, greatly appreciate it from my heart to all yours. Namaste.